Section 1.3, solving linear equations. In example 1, we're going to solve with a variable on one side of the equation. Our first example, 3/7 x plus 9 equals 15. We want to start by subtracting 9 from both sides of the equation. That will leave us with 3/7 x equals 6. And here you have a couple of choices. We could multiply both sides of the equation by 7, or you could multiply both sides of the equation by 7/3. That's really going to be your choice. I'll show you both. First, if I multiply both sides of the equation by 7, that means that the 7 here and the 7 in the denominator will cancel out, and this will leave you with 3x equals 42. And then we'll divide both sides of the equation by 3. And this will give us that x is equal to 14. If I got to the same step here, this 3/7 x equals 6, and you're used to multiplying by the reciprocal, you can do that as well. So we would multiply both sides here by 7/3. That will cancel all of this out. This will leave you with x equals, and if you multiply 6 times 7/3, that gives you 6/1. You can multiply the numerators together and the denominators together, which will give you 42/3, which will equal 14. Also, if you had x is equal to 6 times 7/3, some of you may realize you could cancel the 3 into the 6. That leaves you with 2, and 2 times 7 is 14. So you can see there are several ways you can get to the correct answer. Okay, just make sure that your math is correct and your processes are correct. Example 2, solve with a variable on two sides of the equation. So here we have 5x plus 11 equals 7x minus 9. So we'll start by subtracting 11 from both sides of the equation. This will give us 5x equals 7x minus 20. We're going to subtract 7x from both sides of the equation. That's going to give us negative 2x equals negative 20. And then we'll divide both sides by negative 2. And that gives us that x is equal to 10. Here in example 3, we're using the distributive property. We have 4 times the quantity 3x minus 5 equals negative 2 times the quantity negative x plus 8 minus 6x. So we'll start by distributing 4 through the quantity 3x minus 5, which will give us 12x minus 20. And that will equal positive 2x minus 16 minus 6x. We'll look to combine any like terms on the left side of the equation or the right side of the equation. So it looks like we have 2x minus 6x, which will give us negative 4x minus 16. We'll add 16 to both sides. This gives me 12x minus 4. Which equals negative 4x. Then we'll add 4x. This will give me 16x minus 4 equals 0. We'll add 4 to both sides of the equation. Then we'll divide both sides by 16. Simplify 4/16, which will be 1/4. So x will be equal to 1/4. Example 4, solve an equation with fractions. So here we're going to look at example A, 1/3 x plus 1/4 equals x minus 1/6. What I usually tell my students when they're dealing with fractions is to look for a common denominator here. When you're adding and subtracting, look for a common denominator. So if I look at the numbers 3, 4, and 6 in my denominator, the common denominator for those three numbers would be 12. So what I want to do here to make things easier is multiply the entire equation by 12. Okay, so each term in the equation I'm going to multiply by 12. And I feel that this makes things easier for most students if you follow this process. I know it might be different than something you've learned in the past, but you probably should try it, and it will probably make things easier for you. So if I multiply now 12 times 1/3 x, so 12 times 1/3 is going to give me 4, so that's going to be 4x. If I multiply 12 times 1/4, that's going to give me 3. If I multiply 12 times x on the right side, that's going to give me 12x. And if I multiply 12 times -1/6, that's going to give me -2. So you can see by multiplying by the least common denominator, that gets rid of all the fractions in the equation, and this can make things much simpler to proceed. So now we'll look to combine like terms, so I'll subtract 3, and then you have 4x equals 12x minus 5. Then we'll subtract 12x from both sides. And that's going to give me -8x equals -5. And we'll divide both sides of the equation by -8, which will give me a positive 5/8. Now, you don't have to do the process this way. If you want to subtract 1/4 and then combine the like terms on the right, that's fine. And then subtract x and then combine the like terms on the left. Combine your variables, combine your constants, that's fine. Either way, you should come out with the solution of 5/8. I'm going to do example B the same way. I'm going to look at my denominators of 3, 5, and 10 and come up with my common denominator, which will be 30. This means I'm going to multiply all the terms on the left side of the equation by 30, and then I'm going to multiply all of the terms on the right side of the equation by 30. So if I multiply 30 times 2/3 x, that's going to give me 20x. If I multiply 30 times 1/5, that's going to give me 6. Then I have 30 times 2x, which is going to give me 60x. And then I have 30 times -3/10, which is going to give me -9. Again, we'll look to combine like terms, so I'll subtract 6. That'll give me 20x equals 60x minus 15. I'm going to subtract 60x. That's going to give me -40x equals -15. Then we'll divide -15 by -40. And we'll simplify that fraction, which will give me positive 3/8. Example 5, using linear equations in real life. A real estate broker's base salary is $18,000. She earns a 4% commission on total sales. How much must she sell to earn $55,000 total? So we're going to write an algebraic equation, and then we'll solve that algebraic equation to figure out how much she has to sell to earn the $55,000. So we'll start out with her base salary of $18,000, which is what she's guaranteed to make. Plus, she makes a commission, so she's going to get 4% times anything that she sells. So that's going to be 4%, which will be 0.04 times x. We don't know how much she's going to sell, but she'll get 0.04 times whatever she sells. And we're trying to figure out what that x value will be in order for her to make $55,000. So we'll solve this equation by subtracting 18,000 So we'll have 0.04x equals 37,000. We'll divide both sides by 0.04, and that will give us $925,000. So this tells us that she has to sell $925,000 in order to make $55,000 in total.